Hey friends, welcome to the Canyon Pathways podcast, where we invite you to live like a son and lead like a father. Canyon Pathways is a global community of men on the journey from the striving of servanthood to the freedom of sonship as we traverse the canyon that is midlife leadership. My name is Noel Boucher, and I'm the founder and part of the leadership team for this venture, and I'll be your guide throughout this podcast as we explore and discover what it means to live like a son so we can lead like a compassionate father. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Canyon Pathways podcast. Glad to be with you. Excited about this conversation episode. We got two types of episodes that we drop here at the CP Pod. The first one we call our field note episodes, where we take one of our field note essays, which is a concise exploration of a word that we believe embodies a concept or an idea that's central to this journey into sonship, of living like a son of God, moving from servanthood and the striving and earning to the freedom of sonship. So we look at a field note, and then we follow that up with a conversation episode where we bring in one brother from around the world in the Canyon Pathways community to A, hear a story, but B, get his deeper wisdom on this concept or idea that we looked at in the field note. So here, we got a conversation coming up right now in a minute here with Sherman Bradley in our community and Steve Njenga in Nairobi, Kenya. Can't wait for you to hear Steve's story, but also his wisdom. And I've benefited from it personally as we've been on a retreat together, become a good friend, and eager for him to share about unity, which is the topic we're looking at. In our previous episode, our field note episode, we looked at unity, and we had three main takeaways from that. One is that unity is a deep desire for us. We want to be united. We want to feel unity. It's what pulls us together. We feel isolated. We feel estranged when there is division. And we found that division is one of the outcomes and one of the tactics of evil, of darkness. Breeds division. Divide and conquer has been our accuser and adversary's methodology from the beginning. So when we see divisions, when we look at that, we can often find darkness and brokenness at work. And so we can then understand it, and we can start to begin, not only in life, in all of our relationships, but in leadership particularly, to find where do we have a baseline of agreement? Where can we find some unity? What are the essentials? And let's move from there. And let's look to find growing unity, growing trust, growing reconciliation, and be healers of the divisions that are so prominent, so pervasive in this age of the world that we live in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we looked at the word then. How do we do that? What does it mean to be unified? What does it mean to be united? What is unity at its essence? And we dove into the word. The English word comes from a Latin root meaning agreement or sameness, but then we made a pivot. It was very interesting because sometimes that's a trap for us. We think there has to be complete agreement. People have to agree with me for there to be unity. We have to be the same. We have to sound the same, look the same, behave the same for that unity to be there. And we realized that a Latin root came to us from whom? From the Romans. And they were empire builders and colonizers par excellence, as we discovered. And out of that came, efficiencies, right? Got roads, got aqueducts, got systems, but also a lot of oppression. And just as all roads led to Rome, also when in Rome, do as the Romans do. There was this push towards sameness, towards conformity. And that differs from another aspect of the word, the Hebraic, the biblical, for which we see the word one coming from the Hebrew echad, which means a unified whole, a composite, different things coming together. We see echad throughout Scripture, Father, Son, Spirit. We see it in the two becoming one, echad, one, but different, still different parts that have honor and beauty and dignity, and yet are becoming echad. That's what we want, the togetherness that is captured in that biblical notion of unity. It's not sameness, it's togetherness. It's not necessarily agreement. It's presence with one another. That is a different type of unity, and it creates all kinds of goodness in our lives when we can seize on that let's come together, let's be united, let's not forsake the assembling of ourselves together, not just in our congregations, but in our marriage and with our children and in our families and in our companies and with our colleagues. Let's not forsake it. Let's not let the gaps, the divisions kind of take root around us, where trust ebbs and a lack of trust develops, low trust environments develop. Instead, together, come together. That's echad. That is the real biblical picture of unity. And then lastly, we saw that's what the Father is. Not only is this God who is echad, God is one in the Hebrew scriptures, echad, but one in unity, Father, Son, Spirit. And we now, after this Son has come to bring us redemption, to make a way, to bring us and reconcile us with the Father, so that we now can be sons and daughters, to live as sons after this first Son has come and his life and his freedom is moving through us. We now can be agents, bearers of that unity as well. We can be ones who restore the streets in which to dwell. We can be repairers of the breach. We can be agents of this unity, this togetherness, this echad. So beautiful essay, a lot of discoveries, a lot of application, but I'm going to stop there and move right into our conversation where we're going to get more insights and applications from it. So here's Sherman Bradley, Steve Njenga. Catch you on the other side of this great conversation.
Welcome to Kenyan Pathways. I am Pastor Sherman Bradley, and I am here today with Steve Njenga, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, and MoFund, Africa. We're going to have a wonderful time today as we share with you about how to live like sons in order to lead like fathers. And with Kenyan Pathways, as always, it's about the brotherhood. And this is my new brother from another mother. We met a couple of years ago, and we'll let Steve tell a little bit more about how we arrived across all these waters and then becoming a brotherhood. So, Steve, welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sherman. It's my pleasure.
Yes. So, besides being an entrepreneur, a community advocate, and a father, what else would you like to share with our audience so they know a little bit more about Steve?
Well, those are just but a few of the titles that I identify with, but I'm a builder, I'm a connector, and like you rightly said, I'm a father, proud father of 4 boys.
Four boys.
Every time I say that, it sounds woof, that's a lot. And I love it because those boys are my drive. I'm married to one wife, and she's the mother of my 4 boys. And that tells you that I'm a family man. And so my waking up in the morning, going to work, doing everything that I do, interacting with men, centers around the value that I derive from that family setup and the value that I deliver to them. So I identify with those a lot, and I'm happy to share more about how that came to be what I am made of, because I am made of people.
Ah, wonderful. Let's start with, how did you first come to Canyon Pathways?
Interesting journey. I just mentioned that I am made of people. Everything that I am is through one person and another person and people who keep pouring into me. So I got connected to Canyon Pathways through a friend of mine called Joe, who I've worked with in this journey of manhood, business, fatherhood, Christian living. And he said, there is this invitation that someone asked me to join. And it's my first time. I don't know what this looks like, but I think that I'm gonna go with you and let's go figure it out together. So that's how the invitation to Canyon started in 2023.
Yes,
And
and that was Joe's first visit as well, correct?
Joe's first visit as well. So he invited me and he said, I actually don't know whether I should be inviting you, but I'm just going to invite you anyways. And let's go together, because I also got invited by another friend of mine. So he extended that invitation to me. So that's how I joined.
That is beautiful. So, what were your expectations going into your first retreat?
It's a Christian retreat. So you expect, you go, you start with prayers, you keep reading the Bible, you wake up in the morning, devotion and stuff. And then I go to Kenyan pathways, and then I meet lovely dudes just relaxing, coming to rest, and talking about the strangest thing I ever had about sonship. And it was strange hearing about that because I didn't know that. I identify with fatherhood because, like I just mentioned, I'm a father. And I'm the firstborn in my family, and this is an African setup kind of family. So when you are the firstborn, the African saying from the tribe I come from is when you are the firstborn, you are also the father. So I identify with fatherhood. Sonship is strange. So, like I mentioned, the first experience was strange. Everything was strange, and I loved it. I loved the strangeness of it.
So give us the first impression beyond strange. You're hearing this term sonship. What did it spark for you?
It it sparked a lot of a mix of emotions because I have identified and I've built structures and frameworks of operation in my life around fatherhood. I know what a father is. I provide, I am present, I take care of everyone. It's my job to figure out the challenges that are thrown my way. I have siblings and I have little cousins that I take care of. And I think about everyone. I am also in a managerial role then. I hadn't started MOF and I was just in the journey of starting it. So then I was leading a whole program in the country, working for an international organization. So the understanding of responsibility had become my identity. But me being explained to that I'm a son, and when you are a son and you can ask things from your father, and you can get them from the perspective of that, just the fact that you are a son, so you are an heir, and that was revealing. It was very new to me. I have lived my life being the servant, being the elder brother, taking care of stuff, and just doing what I need to do on a daily basis.
Wow. And so now you're hearing this. Well, wait a minute. You get to be a son and you have to rest. What did that say to you?
Nobody in my life ever told me to rest. When we were growing up, I grew up in the village. I didn't grow up in Nairobi. Nairobi is the capital of Kenya, and when I was growing up, Nairobi was quite a distance, and we only had a few people that I knew that even lived in the city. So w- when our parents would go to work, we were given tasks and chores as kids, and if you would sit idle after completing all the tasks that you were given, you would get absurd tasks to do, like cleaning the windows or, I don't know, draining the gutter or, I don't know, washing anything that is washable just so that you don't sit idle and rest. So I have grown like that my entire life. In fact, one of my biggest struggles was taking leave from work. Because if I take leave from work and I have to go for 3 weeks away from work, I didn't know what to do with my life. So the only way to make my life make sense is to go farm, go do some manual work, paint the house, just do something so long as I'm not sitting. Because if I sit, then I feel like it's a mistake, it's an error.
I wish you were the first to say that, but I've heard that so often, unfortunately. So now on this journey with Kenyan Pathways, and you're learning about rest. It was rest so that you can receive. So, what did you receive in this process? Because I'm sure it must have been emotionally challenging for those 4 days to just be in a sense of not doing very much. I won't say doing nothing, but not doing very much. How did that begin to ease for you, the anxiety from that?
Wow. To be honest, it didn't. I joined Canyon Pathways again in 2024, and this was the first time that now this, what you are asking, was starting to settle in my mind. But the first interaction, my brain still couldn't wrap around the idea of resting and receiving. My brain couldn't wrap around it for the entire 4 days because I was still thinking, if I'm resting, I'm losing time, and I'm not fully sure what the output of the time that I'm losing means. I can't figure it out. I'm resting, yes. And I see other brothers are relaxed, some are sleeping. I also can't find sleep because I'm thinking I need to be doing something. So I'm reading something or I'm having a conversation because I'm trying to fill a void. That was the perspective I had in the first instance. The whole idea of receiving was a concept that took me, based on this explanation, a year to figure out that actually it's not sitting idle and trying to fill your time with something, is resting and receiving from other brothers, receiving from the Father. And I basically, my hands were still clenched, they are not open. And I don't know that concept of receiving. So that took me time, a lot of reflections and conversation with Joe and a few other friends, because we still had other discussions after the Canyon pathway. So we would sit and think, what does receiving actually look like? And receiving is other brothers offering to do stuff for others when there is nothing to gain out of it. They're just doing it out of will, out of love, and out of the understanding that we are rivers, and as rivers, we don't drink our own water.
So true. And let me just recap that for our listeners. Steve is saying he went through the 4-day retreat and decided that because it was difficult to actually literally rest, even though we're off in Navasha where there's not a cabin close or very few other people and people we don't know. So we're really out in nature, just enjoying it. All you hear are birds and monkeys chirping and the wildlife that's playing other than us, just being out there and enjoying one another. But he had to come back a year later to really grapple with not just resting, but then to receive, because we don't rest if we're not sitting with the Father. And that's the beautiful thing about Kenyan Pathways. Our opportunity is to help men discover and rediscover a sense of self as it relates to connection with God. Because if we're always busy, how are we listening to God? How are we really listening to that small, still voice that wants to communicate with us as sons? And that's a marvelous thing. So now you're at your second retreat and you're there, you're resting, you understand it from the first one. What's the next message? What's the next nugget that God drops on you?
So in the first retreat, I think part of the reason why it was difficult to receive is because it was a difficult phase of my life. And in a difficult phase of a man's life, there is usually a lot at play. I was still prayerful. I was still hopeful. I was still fellowshipping with other men, in fact, leading a men's ministry, but still not opening up, not letting anyone in on what my journey looks like. And I am sitting with friends, I'm sitting with brothers, and this is literally the understanding of the 2024 experience, not willing or not understanding how to receive, which is what changed the dynamic then in 2024. I realized, and it's through a journey outside of the Canyon pathways that God had taken me through, and the birthing of Morph and Africa, that I realized that actually I'm on a mission, and I hadn't defined what this mission looks like. And I thought that it's my job to figure out this mission. just like I have always done things in the past by myself, figuring out stuff and not letting God. And this is the first time that I understood for me to receive, I have to let God. I have to let Him guide. I have to let Him show me what I need to do and how I need to do it. And He brings people alongside that journey that are instrumental in ensuring that the vision and the plan that He has for me actually comes into life. So the whole experience of the 2024 Canyon Pathways was God brought people around me, God brought brothers around me, not just within the Canyon Pathways, but the spiral effect after the Canyon Pathways, because after we meet, it's just 4 days of intense interactions. But after that, still maintaining that contact and having phone calls, Zoom calls, and checking in and celebrating birthdays, that has been phenomenal. I never had such group of people around my life until Canyon Pathways happened.
Ah, that is so good to hear. And that is our hope through this process. One of the reasons that we gather is not just to rest, but then to receive. And as you've stated, part of that receiving is from other brothers who are walking in their own journey, but also we're linking up and being a support system to one another, and even often holding one another accountable to the necessity of rest so that it's not a 1 year event, but we take advantage of this Sabbath's rest that God has called us to, that He's called us to for good reason, that we've got to reincorporate into our lives. Now, everyone at Kenyan gets a word, and your word was connect. What did that say to you when you first heard it?
When I first heard it, I got confused because I had never had something so strange yet so true in the first place, in the way it's described. Because I, how did that even happen? I wasn't aware of it from, I never thought of such a thing. But when I evaluated from the description of what this word actually means, connect. Now, this word, when it was given to me, I reflected accurate to what I do, what I am. I am a connector. I am a bridge builder. I have worked for 5 organizations until I started Move Fund Africa. And in each of these organizations that I worked at, they were all in an early stage level. And the connections that I made for each of those organizations led to steep growth in the first 2 years of me operating in those organizations. For every single one of them, there was growth in the first 1 year, 2 years for every single one of them. Increase in profits, increase in the number of staff, increase in partners, trust, growth in brand, name it, name every single one of those KPIs. In the fellowship that I have with friends, with family, my job has always been to link. I link people, I link organizations, I link individuals to different things that they need to do and what they are looking for. So when it was given to me, this was very strange that it's actually what I do, it's what I am, and it has become my identity ever since.
That is amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing. God is definitely been at work. And so when you think, okay, because our theme for today is unity. And when I think of you connecting, it is connected to you being a unifier. I mean, you're working not just as a brother in Christ and in entrepreneurialism, but you have a heart for missions. And
Yeah.
you really want to see change happen socially. So tell us a little bit about how your connection has worked toward providing unity in ways where there's been division.
So my understanding of unity is bringing uniformity around a purpose. I've been working in the nonprofit industry for 15 years or thereabout, in different capacities, in different levels, different spaces, different spheres. And unity, or how this has played in the different roles that I've played, is the definition of the why. Why are we doing this? And making sure that everyone is understanding the reason as to why things are done in a certain way. And if any activity or any intervention that we are building is not contributing to the why, then we don't need to do it. And creating an environment where we can have a discussion, have an open conversation, and say, are we united in understanding of the why? And if we are, then we will not spend resources, time, and money in direction that is not leading us to where we want to go. So my understanding of unity has been in practice, in my work, in my career, in my management style, that we all have to pedal in the same direction. Otherwise, we are losing time, we are losing resources, we are wasting trusted partnerships that have allowed us to do what we need to do.
Wow. So with unity, this is not just an application for the entrepreneurial or social endeavors that you embark upon. It sounds like this is very personal for you. So how does this really work inside your life as well?
So in my life, I did mention earlier on, I'm a family man. I do believe in the institute of family and marriage. And that's where the first intervention of or interpretation of unity comes in. That me and my wife have to unite, think together, interpret circumstances in the same way, in the same direction, and then now build our family, our livelihood around unified direction. We haven't always done this in our lives. We started with polarization in terms of decision making, that it's either or. If she wants this, I want that, and we are not talking to each other. We are alone talking at each other. So unity starts there in my life, that we have gone through a journey and we have fought and we have finally understood this is how we need to solve things. That we sit on the same side of the table and put the challenge that we are facing on the table and discuss it, not sit across the table discussing against each other. And I have tried to use that as a principle in how I operate with my friends, with my colleagues, with my team now in the office, to make sure that whenever we have a difficult issue to address, because you don't understand how this works if there is no conflict. But whenever there is a conflict of a different mindset, that is when you realize, oh, there is no unity here. But during the instances of conflict, it's when the interpretation of how unity is built through this kind of principles of understanding this is how we are operating. And if you have a different opinion, even in the office, you would propose that we handle this in a certain direction. This is how you raise it. This is how you address it. This is how you bring it up. So how unity applies in my life is again from this philosophy, that it's about understanding that we don't have to be polarized in our decisions, that let's sit together, let's act in a way that we are not losing the focus and we are not fighting each other as individuals. It's about opinions.
Yes, very good. Now, that takes me to what is the importance of unity in the journey of sonship?
Something that I read in preparation for this podcast, so it's so interesting. In fact, I wrote it down. It said unity is identity first and action second. And that was profound. So most of the time, and in fact, before the Kenyan pathways, I was action and action and action. There is a challenge, there is a topic, I know how to address it, I will research about it, and I will drive action towards addressing that challenge. But I never had identity. And the principle of unity stems from identity. Because if I know who I am, I have always before identified as a father. So, and what do fathers do? Fathers solve problems, fathers handle issues. And when you are a son, it's a different angle altogether. A son will sit, I have sons, 4 of them, and they have a very easy job. Sit at home, do what they are told to do, and by the time they're at home, demand stuff. And my son will say, Dad, I am interested in motocross. So what do you need? I just need you to buy me a motorbike and get me on the field, and I want to race. And I asked him, do you know how much that cost? Yeah, I looked around. I have an idea of the prices. But what about all your other brothers? What if they want the same? Do you think I can afford it? And he's, I don't know. It's not his job to think whether his father can afford it. It's his job to ask from his father, right?
I
So
like that.
in this understanding, which is very new to me of that I am a son, it has given me the identity that I didn't have before. That being a son, it means that I have a father who provides. And this father who provides is also the father who created me, who knows where I need to go, who I need to meet, what I need to do. And so this same father has the best interests of me. So if he has the best interests of me, then he is not interested in me seeing me fail. And if he doesn't want to see me fail, then he makes sure that what I need is provided for. All I have to do is walk in his ways.
Yes. Yes, that is so good. And so, in this journey of sonship, you're describing how, as a good father, you're also looking through a different lens of what it means for a son to be a son. And now, knowing that your children come to you, have the freedom to ask you for things that may be beyond the immediate reach, and oftentimes with little concern for their other brothers and what they might want to ask of the father. It gives you new insights in how to ask of your own heavenly father who has, oh, good Lord, a billion sons running around. Yet we still can be very personable and ask our heart's desire. That is awesome. Now here's an opposite question here. So where have you experienced disconnection rather than connection, and how did God meet you there?
So I have experienced a lot of disconnection. And there is a difference. I have experienced disconnection when I didn't know there is disconnection. I have
Mm,
also experienced disconnection when I am aware that there is disconnection. When there was disconnection that I was unaware of is when I didn't have an identity, when I didn't know what my my plan should be, what my mission is, what am I doing. And at that point, when I'm running between job to job and I'm building an identity around the job that I have. Before I started Mofund Africa, I was a country director for an international nonprofit, which is a big title to have. It
yes.
opened doors. I go to meetings and I get front row seating. I get a driver to chauffeur me around. I mean, it's nice and it gives me identity. And at that point in time, I am disconnected and I am unaware that I am disconnected. And I face challenges. And especially, I remember during the first Kenyan Pathways in 2023, it was in a very rough period of time where I was facing a lot of issues in that organization. And these issues, I didn't know where they're stemming from. And I also don't know how to address them. And in the end, after a lot of struggle, I ended up having to leave that organization through a lot of pain. And through this pain, I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Because I joined this organization just a few years ago where there were just 2 people, me and one other person. And in 4.5 years, there are 27 people who are working full time in that organization in a couple of million of euros annual in terms of budget. And this wasn't there when I was joining. So what did I do wrong? You know, I
Yeah.
didn't understand the disconnect. And
Mm.
it took me through a lot of painful process of uncertainty and confusion and questioning God and praying and asking, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to go? I mean, I did my job. I I have seen a lot of scandals for people who hold such roles. All I have seen is glory and God's blessing in my work. I have seen every year income and funds coming in, grant proposals that we write going through, getting favor. And all this has been good stuff. So why does this good stuff have to end in this kind of thing? You know, that is disconnect that I experienced, and I didn't know. Later on, it's just now that I understand that that was God's way of telling me my time there is over, and there is a whole new place I need to go because that's where He wants me to be. And I have also experienced disconnect when I am aware that
Mm.
there is this.
Yes, share with us.
Yes, which is a different perspective because I know my mission. I know what I need to be doing. I feel I am aligned with God's mission in my life, but still I feel disconnected. I feel disconnected because the how of getting to that mission isn't clear to me. I can see my true north, but I can't see through the valleys that I have to walk tomorrow morning because it's dark. I can see the light 1,000 miles away, but
Yeah.
between here and where that light is, it's forest, it's jungle, and it's slippery. And now I'm disconnected. I'm disconnected because I don't have as much resources that I need right now. I have so much pressure that I am unaware how to handle because I am now running an organization that I founded. And basically I am the barrier. So if we have issues, financial issues, I need to handle them. I have, challenges that I face in my family, in my extended family, which is complex. You know how African families are.
Yes.
I don't come as an individual, I come as a whole unit of a clan. And all
That
those problems come to me. So that
yes.
disconnect, I have experienced it. And I end up struggling to pray. I end up asking a lot of tough questions. Is it really what God wanted me to do? This is a lot more difficult than when it sounded the first time I heard it. First time I heard it was exciting. I was excited, running around telling everyone. And now I'm questioning the journey that I'm in. So I have experienced a lot of disconnect in my life.
Ah, thank you for sharing. That is important for some of our listeners to hear so that they don't think that they're alone in the challenge that they're facing.
Hmm.
But I'm curious, what led you into social entrepreneurialism?
Um, I mentioned earlier, I've been in the nonprofit space for a couple of years now, and I specifically around fundraising, and I've done a lot of work in terms of raising funds from a couple of 100,000 euros to a couple of million of euros, bringing to the organizations that I have been working in. And in the last two experiences working for both international organizations based out of Europe, is when I raise this kind of funds, I know the routes, I know how the fundraising space works. In the approaches that I made, I was able to raise these funds, and in some instances, we were doing sub-granting or re-granting to small organizations. And I know the metrics of how that works. So there is this much money, and there is this little that you're only able to disburse to small organizations. But when it comes to my African counterparts who don't have a global brand, when they are attempting to raise funds, it's a very, very difficult journey. So I was driven to start More Fund Africa from the understanding of how these dynamics work. It is a mammoth of a task for an African organization founded by an African without global networks and connections to raise funds for their enterprise or for their nonprofit and to really build meaningful impact in their community. And they face double problems. If you start an organization that is helping, for example, you have a rescue center that is helping rescue girls, teenage pregnant girls, and rescue center is taking care of them, feeding them, helping them with delivery, taking care of their children, and even helping them go back to school. If you run out of funds, the pain of seeing these girls go back home is unbearable. But at the same time, as a founder of such a rescue center, you have bills to pay, you have activities to run, and you need to raise funds, and it's difficult to do so. And if you close down, the same community that you have been helping is going to castigate you because they're going to be thinking that you are given money by donors and you decided that you don't want to do this work anymore. So it becomes a challenge that from an African perspective, many funders or many philanthropic individuals and corporates do not understand. So I started More Fund Africa to help such kind of institutions, to help them, one, tell their story in a donor understanding language. If you are in the US or in Europe or in a country outside of the action country, in this case, if you're in South Africa or in Nigeria, the context of what this rescue center is doing is still strange. So I help these institutions tell their story in a way that any investor or funder would understand it from their perspective. And two, I build capacity of this kind of organizations, which are African founded, invest in them so that they understand structure, they understand frameworks, and they understand what an outsider would want to see to be able to build trust in them, to be able to fund them. And thirdly, I mobilize African philanthropic capital and channel it to such organizations in terms of soft capital. There is a lot of need for commercial capital, but we have just started by focusing on soft capital in grants and both cash and non-cash grants for these organizations, just to help them grow and to help them make the impact that they have desired for their communities.
That is amazing and such needed work. We find those similar challenges here in the US for certain people groups who find themselves, let's just say, on the shorter end of the stick, as they say, and needing a support system galvanized to assist them, to give them that hand up that oftentimes is missing in the journey. And you've been also working with young, or on behalf of young entrepreneurs. Share a story that sticks out to you that you're proud of.
So I have been working with many young entrepreneurs, and it's entrepreneurs who are innovative and creative. And I have very many stories to tell around these entrepreneurs because, as you know, at More Fund Africa, we have now about 450 of such entrepreneurs that we are supporting in our network across Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, and growing. So one story that strikes me is a lady based in Kenya who runs a therapy center for children with cerebral palsy. And she has cerebral palsy herself. And she has managed through a lot of hardship and a lot of support through her family to get access to education and to end up setting up a therapy center. She set up a therapy center, a commercial one, where she charges commercial rates and she gets people coming to her center for different kinds of therapies for children with cerebral palsy. But she also realized that within the same community, there are many other mothers because the difficult part is that when a mother here in these sides of Africa gets a child with such a condition, most fathers are absent. They will not be involved in how such a child needs to be taken care of. So mothers from low-income households can't afford therapy. So their children end up becoming completely disabled. They can't go to school, and they can't lead any meaningful lives with decency. So she talked to a church and said, why don't we be providing services once a week so that mothers who are not able to come to my commercial center can access the same professional support, but in a non-profit setup, because the church provides a facility. She doesn't have to pay. It's just a staff volunteering time. And that ended up becoming another whole fledged facility that she runs. And one day wasn't enough. It ended up being a whole week from Monday to Saturday, because there's so many parents who want therapy for their children, but they can't afford it. So now this lady is facing a challenge because she's using the profits from her commercial enterprise to run the non-profit enterprise. And so she becomes eligible for a program at More Fund Africa to say, hey, let's help you structure so that the non-profit side of your operation does not falter in terms of its impact, but also you are able to scale your commercial enterprise in therapy so that the profit that you generate are completely separate, but also help you raise funds from well-wishers, from corporates who can support your non-profit enterprise. So that's just one of the many stories, but the kind of work that we do is to help such a person, because the first time she heard that you can actually raise funds, her question was ridiculous. Right? So who gives you money? Then I say, well, donors are going to fund the operation. Then she says, so who are these donors and what do they want with me? Because nobody gives money without expecting something in return.
Oh,
So
wow.
a whole, and it's people who don't understand how fundraising works, and they don't have shiny LinkedIn profiles. She's just busy doing the work that she needs to do for her community. That's the impact that I look for.
Mm, wow. What a story. And what impact. So when I think about Mo Fund Africa, it, were there, is there a significant challenge that you faced where your faith was also challenged in order to meet what you were facing?
Yes. Um, you know, uh, during the difficult period that I had in 2023, one of the things that kept me going when I drafted this mission and I tested God and I said, give me a sign. If you give me a sign that this is what you want me to do, then I will proceed to do it. And God gave me a sign. And it was simple test. I had sent a proposal to a specific funder and I had asked them, I've started this idea and I need you to help me by letting me work on your grantees and support them. And I'm not going to charge you. But if you see that there is good work happening, then let us proceed. And during a prayer time that we had in September of 2013, I said, if I see feedback in the next 3 days that we are in this prayer meeting, then I will know that this is the mission you want me to do. And 3 days go by, and the last day, I have not seen anything. Then I started worrying and said, okay, maybe I wasn't serious. And even if I don't see a sign, maybe I'll still proceed. But before the end of the day, I got a call. I got a call and said, hey, Steve, we think your idea is actually welcome. Do you think we can start? And I say, okay, yay. I got a confirmation. But to answer your question, someone once told me that faith meets you at the level of audacity. And I have seen this many times. And we have been told many times that God responds to boldness, just like the woman with the issue of blood.
Yeah.
It's your faith that has healed you,
Yeah.
right? So in this instance, the dream and the desire for the structure that Morphand is bold. It's ridiculous just to think about it and to explain it to someone, thinking that I can be able to mobilize the billions of dollars that flow into Africa from the diaspora into social causes, into funding institutions, funding governments. It's possible to do. But I told God, I'm not doing this without you. You have to be at the center of this. And this is my audacity. This is my audacious prayer. And everything that I do, even when I face setbacks, even when we don't have money to pay rent for our office, but we are still walking there and boldly declaring what we need to do because I'm not the one who sent myself. I know who sent me, and it has
Yeah.
given me that identity.
Ah, that is awesome. And I love the fact that you said he's at the center. He's not just at a part of it. He's not the part you let in, but he's at the very center of what your heart has desired and what you have been graced to build. And from that, he meets you at your level of faith and inspires and encourages us as we take that bold step. That sometimes it's a step, sometimes it's a leap, sometimes he's carrying us like those footprints in the sand. It is awesome to hear about the work that you're doing with Mo Fund Africa. It sounds to me like you're only where you are. You've only arrived along this particular point in time because of the faith that you've incorporated into Mo Fund by your love for the Lord. Is there any additional thoughts you'd like to share about your faith being implemented to see Mo Fund get to where it is today?
A couple of things. One of the biggest prayer points I had is the team. I prayed that God gives me people that are not just looking for a paycheck, but people who understand what it is that we are doing and the reasons why we need to do it. Because it's going to get tough. And when it gets tough, then they will crack. They will crack for multiple reasons, either because the results that we are desiring are not coming through fast, or the funds that we are aiming to build are not coming in fast, or the workload is too much without an understanding of why do we have to do all of this. So I prayed that the people that come my way, that God send them to me, so that one, we will not have a conflict of principles, because I want to engage people who, when I say that these are the principles of our organization, they can interpret them from this angle of the angle that I have, that we are believers. There are things that we do and there are things that we do not do. And this industry is mighty corrupted.
Mm.
You are aware that the nonprofit industry is used by many, many people for many wrong reasons. And to make it worse, in terms of the way that we have situated ourselves, when we are managing funds, when we are receiving funds from a donor, we do not have complete oversight of where the source of these funds are. And we might audit these funds as much as our ability is. But in the end, we might find ourselves trapped in an instance where we have received money from sources that we shouldn't. And so many variables that I look around in my organization and say, there are things that can only happen when I am abiding in God's will. And when I'm saying that if these are our values as an organization, God will not lead us to institutions or to people or to platforms that are going to use our mission and our vision for selfish benefits. So I have used this because I can't protect this. Only God can protect it. So when I am aware of that, so I wield that power to him and I say, the people that I am building, I'm going to recruit, I advertise, I interview, I shortlist using my short-sightedness and my basic understanding. But only God sees through the heart and God leads people to me that he wants me to work with. So,
Yes.
and this is how I try to operationalize things in my organization without spiritualizing things. We don't come into the office and start prayer sessions, and we have a lot of work to do. But in this work, we want to operate in policies and processes and beliefs that are biblically driven and enshrined.
Yes. So that brings up a very good transition because I know the last 2 years that I've been there with you in Nairobi, there has been social unrest. There are a lot of challenges going on socially. And as a man who has a heart for unity and is a connector, what are some of the greatest challenges you see to unity in Nairobi and Kenya going on right now?
When I look around, I am in deep pain for my country, and it extends for most countries in Africa, because there is a rise in terms of governments that are rough, that are not thinking about the people, that are focused on institutionalizing policies that are oppressive. And this is coming from a point of, I mean, there is global influence to it, which I completely understand. And you have seen in terms of funding cuts and protectionist governments and increasing in defense spending and less in social protection funding, and it affects everyone. And what it does to countries like ours is that it becomes a lot more difficult to earn an honest living. It
Mhm.
creates a bigger gap between the wealthy and the poor. And what
Yes.
happens is that the young people who are getting out of school, Africa is a very young population. Our median age is 19.5
Wow.
years of age. So we are an extremely youthful population. If the government is not creating job for the youth, then it means that these youth have nowhere to go. They have nothing to do. That's why the social media, X is the most active platform in Kenya, with a lot of young people who have nothing to do but just become keyboard warriors. They are just typing and typing and typing because they are disillusioned. They don't think the system will ever work for them. And so you see a lot of unrest. And again, the political class doesn't understand what this is implicating. So when I look at it from where I am and the role that I play, I am at pain because, on the one hand, I'm trying to fix this kind of a system which is broken. And there are so many fragmented efforts that you see. I'm always in meetings and you see genuine people who work for the government who want to make a change, but they are not the top decision makers. So they don't have the power to make that kind of a change that can help this youth. So it makes my work difficult. I hear a lot of pain, a lot of cry from entrepreneurs who are having to close shop, and it's reverberating across the continent. 2 weeks ago, I was consoling a Nigerian entrepreneur in our program. He runs a waste recycling business. He collects wastes from households in Abuja city, and then he dumps that waste, and then he tries to recycle what is recyclable. And he's having to close shop. He called me. He said, "Hey, Steve, I'm having to close because it's tough. It's difficult." He's having trouble because he has employed the young ones, and the Gen Zs are a different type of employee. They just quit. They wake up in the morning, they quit, or they just mess around your customers, and he doesn't know how to handle that. So there is a lot that is happening, not just in Kenya, but also
Yes.
in other countries across Africa, that is difficult. We struggle a lot when we see that, and we feel incapacitated to do it. But I still have faith that if we are able to mobilize resources, cash and non-cash resources, there is enough people of goodwill across the world than there are those that don't have goodwill, those that have self interest. But those people that have goodwill are afraid to act. They are trying to protect themselves, and they don't have an avenue of where they can exercise their goodwill, where they can give of their time, where they can give of their experiences, and where they can give of their money so that they can actually build a lasting impact. Those are the challenges that I see.
Yes, and they are big ones. But we serve a big God, and it's brothers like you that will continue to press in by faith, where we will begin to see change occur. What advice would you give to men who feel isolated and divided in their lives right now? Because we have this Kenyan podcast going on, and we want to reach the hearts of men, and men find themselves challenged by, as you originally shared your first trip, challenged by this notion of I can be actually connected rather than isolated. I can be unified rather than divided. What advice would you give to someone who's in that middle place and they're struggling with that realization?
I would tell them that unity is strength through interdependence. Now, the African man, the African male, is usually living in a context where they have been brought up that to know that you are a man and you put the weight of the world on your shoulders and you carry it, and you shouldn't feel like you're weak. It's your burden, it's your job to carry it. And most men that I have interacted with find it such a big problem to share, me being one of them. Even today, I still feel a bit of a challenge sharing what I'm going through or the kind of pain that I'm in, because it was built for many years in me that you are a man. Anytime I would cry when I was young, I would be told, you are a man it up. And that's how men take it up. And the fact that we have the burden to take care of our families, our extended families. So most men that I see, especially in the professional space, they are facing such a battle, and especially the middle age, where they are having to take care of their elderly parents, and they're also having to take care of their family, their nuclear family, and their siblings.
And
So
siblings,
the-
yes.
yes, and siblings as well. And in some cases, you also have extended family that you have to take care of. And worse, if you seem to be doing well in your career, you have some income, but the income is so stretched that when you try to take care of your immediate family, the needs that your siblings have are also your burden. And in Africa, you are only one disease away from poverty. Our social protection that is non-existent. It's not like in the US or in Europe, where if you have an elderly parent who is sick, they can go to hospital, they can get taken care of. Even if they are placed in palliative care, you have resources that are coming from the government to take care of them. But in Africa, if parents become unwell and they are hospitalized, we have to do fundraising. We have to sell our assets, sell your car, sell your house, take up a loan, and make sure that they are taken care of. And even when that is done and you end up losing them, then you are left in such a big debt, financial debt, and you're just getting out of your prime years of productivity. So most of the men that you find that I have connected with in the ages 40 plus, they are going through so much pain and through so much struggle that the best thing to do is just to drink it away, meet with friends, connect with them, just have some nice time and never talk about what you're going through. Because if you talk about what you're going through, then there is really no one to put up their hand and say, hey, bro, I'm here. Let's talk it out. What can I do with you? What can I do for you? How can I help? You don't see this because every single one of these men is facing the same. So when I say I am favored and I am blessed, is because I have found men around me who are not shying off from the fact that they are struggling. And it's through a lot of talk and a lot of exposure that the few men that I have in my circle can be able to talk that way. In the church where I fellowship, we have men's ministry and we meet and we talk. But even when we talk, you will still see other meetings happening outside on the platform because men will still not open up. They'll still share the top 1% of the 99% of the challenges that they are facing. They'll just share the lightest challenge that is understandable. They say, oh, I'm struggling at work. My profits are low, so I have a limited income this month. It sounds shareable, but they don't want to share that they are struggling in their marriage. They don't want to share that they are struggling with alcoholism or they are struggling with extended family or their in-laws. It's those deep problems and challenges that make these men work in isolation. They are together but isolated.
Isolate.
Even if they are in a group or in a circle, they still are isolated. They still go home to face the same challenges that they were facing yesterday, even after spending 3 or 4 hours with a group of other men. So when I say that unity is strength through interdependence, is finding a sweet spot of depending or leaning on to other men around you. But for that to happen, you have to be the first man to give. When you give, then you create space to receive, which is a concept that I only learned recently. You give, and then others are willing to give to you. Others are willing to say, "Hey, I wouldn't mind spending an afternoon with you and just talk and share." And those afternoons end up changing lives. They end up getting people out of possible suicidal thoughts. So I am always rooting for the boy child and for men, and trying to create opportunities where men can talk to each other, listen to each other. My friend and I, Jackson, you remember him?
Yes, I do.
We created
His birthday's
a
today.
yes, today is his birthday. I
Yes.
met him here today. And we normally have this boys hangout. We just go, we will get a goat, we slaughter, we do a barbecue, we with no agenda. We just want to sit and hang out
Yes.
and call our friends, the men, let's come and sit. And the kind of stories that come out in such meetings are stories that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. It's men
Mm.
who just come up and literally cry and express themselves and say, "This is stupid." Yeah, we know this is stupid because you don't do it elsewhere. There's a reason why we have a barbecue, sit around and talk to each other and say, "You know what you're going through? It's not strange. I've gone through that before. My marriage was on the rocks. This is how it went. It was a horrible experience because I was alone. Yours is better because you're not alone. We are here with you through the whole experience and we'll help you, we'll guide you." So I am always rooting for men because men are battered. The world is not kind to men. And the only thing to do is to come together in solidarity, connect, share, and make life easier for each other.
Yes. Amen. This is a great place to conclude and to continue to reflect. And first, I'll just say thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your heart and your work. You're doing wonderful work in the continent, not just in the country of Kenya. And I'm grateful for this time to share with you. I'm grateful to get to know you and your brothers that are now my brothers. But I want you to just take these last few minutes here and I want you to pray for our Kenyan brothers and for those that we want to reach through this podcast who may not have ever been on a retreat. They don't understand what you've just shared in this hour about resting and receiving and then inviting and investing such that they can pour their learnings into others. And there's community, there's unity, and there's the connection that we need that we don't often allow into our lives. So pray for the Kenyan community and for those who just might be listening and know they need to step into a community of men like this.
Hmm. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Shaman. I'm happy to put out a prayer. Father God, it's an interesting time that you have placed us in, where we can have such a conversation, where we can share, where we can exchange, and where we can reach out to brothers who are going through quite a lot and remind them that you have not forsaken them, that you know the pain that they are going through, and they're going through it for a purpose. And the only way to understand this purpose is to come to you. Lord Almighty, we are grateful that you have given us such an opportunity at such a time so that you can use us. Thank you because of giving us this opportunity, this favor. Lord, as we sit here, as we share this exchange, I am praying for anyone who is listening that you remind them that you have a purpose for them, that everything that they have gone through has not been in vain, that you're going to use it, to use those experiences, as bad as they are, as nasty as they are, for your divine purpose, that you're going to use them to show the world that you have always cared for them, that you have always remembered where they are and you have always heard their prayers, and that one day they are going to see what the reasons were. I am praying that as the Kenyan brothers continue expanding globally, reaching one man at a time, that each of those men become a beacon of hope in their space, in their environment, for their family, for their enterprise, for the interactions that they make, every single one of them, that they are going to be used of you, that they are going to reach wider, that they are going to reach deep, and that whoever they meet, whoever they interact with, feels the love, feels the touch, and knows that they have been sent by you. And I know that everything that we do, dear Lord, you're going to be guiding us. You're going to be showing us the step ahead. And where it's too difficult for us to bear, we know and we are confident that you're going to carry us through one step at a time. We are grateful and we are hopeful and we believe and pray and trust in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you again, Steve. And thank you to the Mo Fund Africa family for you taking this time out to share.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
You are very welcome. For those of you listening, go see and check out the website and the wonderful work that they do because they need your support. This has been another edition of Kenyan Pathways Podcast. This has been your host, Sherman Bradley, and we again thank Steve Njenga for joining us. We thank our brothers behind the scenes, Gabby and Jake, who hold us down as our producers. We will see you again soon. God bless you.
God bless you.
Friends, hope you enjoyed that conversation between Sherman and Steve. So much wisdom, and I love both of those brothers. I'm glad that we've been able to, as listeners, partake in that wisdom that they bring. It jumped out at me, just how much this idea and then the invitation into sonship has meant to Stephen. It's just powerful, and I love how he describes that journey that we're all on and that we're all invited to live more and more like a son, not just like a father, which many of us do in our lives, not just as a servant and a hired hand, but as a son and an heir. It's made a difference in his life. And I love how he described unity, the idea of sitting at the table, first coming to the table together, but not sitting across the table when we have conflict or division or an issue that needs to be discussed and a decision that needs to be landed on. Not across the table, we sit on the same side of the table and we put that thing on the table. We are on the same side. That's togetherness. That's echad. That's unity. Beautiful, beautiful, easy mental tool for all of us to begin applying. And I know I'm going to do that right away. So great episode. Check out the show notes for links as well as a PDF with discussion questions on this topic. If you'd like to use this episode for personal reflection going forward or in small group meetings, subscribe so you catch all the episodes as they drop as we continue to develop a language of sonship through this podcast. Thanks to the team at Maroon Harpoon for producing this episode, and thanks to our donors who make this venture possible. And as always, thank you for being a part of this Kenyan Pathways community as we together live like sons and lead like fathers.